Hi there. On today's episode, the juice is loose as we review the sequel to Beetlejuice that came out 36 years ago.
I'm Beetlejuice. I'm Beetlejuice.
I'm Beetle. Eddie, this is straight to PLD. So it's been 36 years since the first Beetlejuice came out. And of course, this is a long-awaited sequel that everybody's been asking for. That was constantly been on the Reddit boards. That why don't where's the Beetlejuice sequel? And of course, this is 36 years later, we finally received it. Of course, we are getting blasts from the past, 80s revivals, Mad Max, the continuation of Alien, and now we have Beetlejuice. So 80s throwbacks are getting a resurgence. How do you all feel about this blast from the past of the 80s? Do you think these reboots and or these continuations of these stories are doing it justice, or should they have just stayed classics where they were and remember them fondly and maybe just get them DVD, Blu-ray updated as opposed to new storylines or continuing storylines? What are your all opinions on it?
Um, just were people asking for Beetlejuice too?
No, I
It looks
was it was
like
sarcastic because we were very
on the
sarcastic.
Wikipedia,
Is it
I'm
what?
seeing that this film, the script was developed in 1990.
Wow.
So it looks like they've been trying to make this for a while. So like you said, like someone wants this movie being
Somebody
made.
won it. Well, I was also the assumption that on the first one, there was a lot of things that were implied. They were never confirmed, but I thought there was a lot of implied, which closed the movie very well. Is what I thought made the movie really good. But we could get into those in the spoiler-free thoughts. We will be spoiling the first one, obviously. But we'll get into that a little bit more. So that's interesting, Chris. That's good to know that this has been in the works for some time, but either through, you know, production issues or studio issues, it's just been postponed. Um, I mean, uh, not Kevin Costner. What's his name? Shoot, Michael Keaton. Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Michael Keaton is well into his 70s, and I would not have known based on just seeing this movie. It looks like he hasn't missed a beat. So that's a positive thing for me. Um, I don't know what are your all thoughts on this? Do you think it's time we move from that decade to the 90s and just start seeing like I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Well, I mean,
rebooting
technically they
those and
rebooted that one
stuff?
already too.
Yeah, we kind of rebooted the 90s, didn't we?
Or like
Um,
Scream. I
I
mean,
don't,
Scream is still going, right?
yeah.
Um,
I
yeah,
don't know.
but
I
the
feel like
80s,
we're we're keep on gonna milk it until there's no more movies left.
E.T., The Goonies. Man, there's so many.
I mean, yeah.
I think a good movie that I would like to watch now would probably be like Hackers because they did such a good job at back in the day. And I think now in this day and age with technology, I think that would be a pretty decent film. But there's just so much, right? There's just so much that they're just trying to bring back or just kind of
I mean, everything's been
continue.
brought back.
It's like,
Almost everything has been brought back.
but you know, it's amazing to see that the people who were in these movies are actually still around. You know what I mean? Like they must have been in their early 20s when the first ones came out in the 80s, and now
Hmm.
36 years later, they're pushing 60, 70, but they're still like it doesn't look like they're 60, 70. They're still going out and doing these movies, which is great. But I think I don't know, I think it's dying down now. Like I think it's time to just close the book on some of these what ifs and just kind of just move it along or just go to the next decade. I mean,
I don't know if it's dying. Like this summer alone, we had Twisters, Beetlejuice, and Time Bandits that got a a reboot. So it's
Mad
my
Max was this
question.
year too,
And
no?
Aliens, which is still
y-
going strong.
Well,
Not
Well, I
really,
don't know
but
if
it's
I
still
count
Aliens
going
is
that.
strong,
continuing.
right?
Aliens is
Yeah.
still continuing, I guess, the story, but it hasn't
Well, that's
died.
just a
And Mad
franchise at this
Max
point, you know.
and Mad
Same with
Max
Mad
also came out
Max.
this year,
Yeah.
and that's a very 80 movies.
Well, yes,
ju-
my question to you guys, do you rather have like a full reboot of these or like a Lego sequel, something like Ghostbusters Afterlife
if
or like
if
other ones
it's
where like it ties into the old movies?
Yeah, I guess my issue with the latter is that if we could get writers and studios to just either find a way to make their own stories, but at the same time don't don't just use the IP for the sake of using IP, right? If you could still pay homage to the original, and in most cases not necessarily follow the original outline, but just, you know, don't forget it exists to the capacity that it does, and I think I'd be fine with it. But so far, a lot of these just haven't proven very well, or have proven to stand the test of time. You know, the another thing might be that, because they were made when they were made, it may be very hard to just try to get those to be redone in modern times. Especially for like the horror films. Like a lot of horror films, like a lot of them can be solved with a cell phone nowadays. You know what I'm
True.
saying? Like
It's true.
they has to like the trope in horror films now is like, I have no signal. It's like, all right, I've been in the middle of Yosemite. There's signal. You know what I mean? Like, uh, not literally, of course, but I'm just saying, like, you could find, like you have to have that trope because, back in the day, Michael Myers could be chasing you for like an hour, but all you have to really do is call someone and run faster. And it's like, I'm here, call the cops or something. Just the phone itself just allows you to do so much more. So,
Well, it didn't help in the last Halloween trilogy, you
yeah, I
know.
know, right? Because nobody, it was just weird. But I mean, I guess that's my point is that it's really hard to remake these things without, because the movies were made, the movies made them classic for the time because that it was a movie made for that time.
Hmm.
Like if you want to reboot or if you want to do anything with these, again, I would either keep the same story because it's set in that time and just new actors and maybe throw in one or two, you know, modern things in there. But it's really hard to take, the Breakfast Club of a bunch of teenagers where they have to talk to each other and they're so different in an era where, I assume the tension, everybody's just looking at the screens anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not it's not an actual thing that we could take, like that we wouldn't necessarily think of or appreciate in a movie. Because it can't do it. That's just my opinion. What about you guys?
But
About this,
it's
yeah,
like the
about
kids of the Breakfast Club, like their kids got detention and they hang out then.
Yeah, it would have to be something like that, but it's like, oh, give us all your cell phones, but
Yeah.
also forget that we're not in the times that we are in the time. So it's like, there's no TikTok,
yeah,
there's no trends that they're trying to do, and there's no computers. It's like literally like, you know, like Breakfast Club, the majority, not the majority, but there was a whole aspect that there was bullies in school and there was physical, actual bullies, and you had to be okay with that because that was part of school culture. Now, I don't think you could actually necessarily do that in a way where it's like, he's a school bully. We all stay away from him because,
What does he do? He trolls my Instagram account.
Right.
yeah, stuff like that. You know
Like,
what I'm saying? Like, well, whatever it is, I don't think
yeah,
those tropes exist
yeah,
necessarily in today's, modern day of
yeah.
school.
I mean, it would work. A Breakfast Club reboot would kind of work if it was. It'd have to be like it would have to be gimmicky. And I
Yeah,
think that's the point you're trying to get to, is that the punk rock dude would have to have a punk rock kid, and then the bully would have to have a kid who was also a bully, and the nerd
No,
has a
let's
kid who
switch it
has a
up, you
nerd,
know. Like
Well,
And
yeah, I
the
mean,
kid
like,
who's
yeah.
a
yeah,
bully
but
is
but
the guy who's a punk
because
rock
those
dad.
differences have to be like there and cut. Otherwise, you would just have a 90-minute movie of like, I don't know what high school kids
We
are
already had
like.
that movie though. We had Breakfast Club already, you know.
We
So you
did
had to switch it up.
a reboot.
Yeah.
Oh, not a
No, I'm
reboot,
saying
like the
like your
original.
idea. Like that's you're
Yeah,
just doing
but
the
again,
movie
it
again.
like that's just if I saw that, I'd be like, oh, this is so gimmicky. Um, and then if I also wouldn't watch like 90 minutes of like kids trolling each other on the internet, right? Um,
Well, I
on
guess
TikTok, because that's just boring.
have you guys seen the Mean Girls movie that came out last year, this year?
No,
No,
did
that
you?
that was a
Like does
musical. That
that
was based on the
what
musical, and that was
sure,
just
but
really
like does that
horrible.
change up any of the that kind of stuff, the school?
It
Or is it
does.
like set in when
No,
the
it
musical
keeps,
came
for the
out?
most part, it keeps the same time frame
Okay.
and the same like just general, I would say overarching themes of like a popular girl, a new girl becomes popular girl, you know, those type of aspects of it.
Hmm.
But because the new Mean Girls was based on a play that was completely derivative of the movie, uh the play itself, I mean, and we've had this discussion before, plays that go into movies don't always work, or sometimes they work based on, again, how they're directed, how they're stuff. But I think because, again, for whatever reason, the public holds like a movie like Mean Girls is such a high regard of a classic movie that they were just like, you ruined that, despite the fact that they were told numerous times, this is not a reenactment of what you know, which I assume, again, going coming full circle, that if they were to do something with the Becker's Club like that, as you said, Chris, was like something new, despite the fact that they would tell them was like, this is not a frame by frame shot and just, you know, with new actors. Um, it's held so near and dear to people's hearts as just be like, well, why, you know, you didn't have to ruin the IP um type of deal.
Yeah. I
I
mean, I
don't.
feel like that's how I feel about a lot of these like legacy sequels or reboots. They just feel like cash grabs and they're pretty much like using nostalgia. Like, I mean, we talked about Candyman, Jurassic World, like
Mm-hmm.
all those have a similar kind of thing. Like, they're just using the tropes or like, we're bringing back this actor for like fan service, kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
Ghostbuster Afterlife was very much that as well. Like, hey, remember this reference? Like, we talked about Alien Romulus review, which is out now,
Yeah.
Which is out
probably.
now.
So I don't think they're dead at all by any means. I
Oh
think,
no, they make money.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
gonna keep
it's
going.
just gonna be a cash grab always. Um, what I would like to see if they're gonna, I mean, they're gonna bring back everything. So, Back to the Future was like one of the, I think, 80s movies that hasn't gotten a reboot or,
I think like the creator said he didn't want it rebooted, so they're probably gonna wait until he dies and then reboot it or something. I don't know how it works.
maybe, yeah, maybe it's still in talks. Maybe it's like, oh, let's make something put on the shelf because we're gonna want to fund this eventually.
I mean, they're already rebooting the Harry Potter movies,
Oh
so
yeah. Oh,
that hasn't even been that long in
yeah.
comparison to like ET or something, you know.
ET 2? You think there's gonna be an ET
He
2?
he comes home, he like brings like the mothership back, and like they take over Earth. That's
E2?
a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think also on the list that's like I don't really see in terms of like um reboots are all the rom-coms from the 80s.
I feel like rom-coms aren't really a thing like that popular anymore. Like we haven't really seen a lot of them recently.
Yeah, like 16
Or like they're like straight
Candles
to
or
Netflix, you know?
Say Anything. Yeah. All the what's his name? Like anything by John, whatever his name is. Oh, I'm forgetting the main director that like kind of did all these movies.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is like movies like Airplane, um, probably won't be rebooted or remade. Just because it's it's kind of for its times, which cracks me up. But it's still a good movie. Watch Airplane. But I see Back to the Future being one of those that are is eventually going to come back.
You pulled up a list of things. And I was like, okay, that's getting a reboot. Beverly Hills Cop, that just got a reboot. Never
Yep.
Ending Story, that's getting a reboot.
Yep.
Jeez.
I think there was something else on here I saw. I
Uh,
was like, okay, that's in production as
Bill
well.
and Ted's Excellent Adventure, that was not rebooted, but it was like a sequel a couple years ago. I remember
Yeah.
like Bill and Ted and End It All or something. I forgot what it was. It's not End It All. Footloose reboot on that. Like that was like 10 years ago. That wasn't even like recently. Um, a lot of war movies that did well during the 80s, but of course it was the 80s, so it kind of reflected the times.
I feel like those aren't really people aren't going to reboot those just because
No,
they're
not get
you can
over
just make another war movie.
it. Reboot Full
They're
Metal
not like
Jacket.
it's not like an IP that or Glory. You don't want to like let's reboot the Civil War. Like no, we're not gonna do
Who has IP on the Civil War?
Well, it's like I'm surprised they keep coming out with like World War II movies. I guess there's just so much story to tell.
it.
Um,
Yeah.
that they're just like we could keep I guess milking these era these era type movies. But I don't know. I don't I would want to say that in in a decade from now, or maybe a decade and a half, maybe even 2 decades from now, that we look back at this time of film and cinematography and call it like the reboot time, or like the era of just trying to cash grab, or just like you know brain drain era, and then eventually get back to original movies, original scores, new stories to tell.
I
Um,
love your optimism.
because I don't, down like, because
Feel
even
like this
what,
is
like, what, like, think about it. What original film have we seen now? Like, I'm not even saying it had to be good, like one of the better movies reviewed. But what original movie that's come out now? Like, I'll even give you, since we started the pod, would Hollywood be like, we are gonna reboot that movie in 20 years because it was that good? Like, there is no movie that we have reviewed within the tenure of this podcast that I would say that they would be like, yeah, we gotta reboot that in 20 years. Like, do you honestly think there still be like 2046, Beetlejuice fucking remastered, redone Beetlejuice Part 3 of the new Beetlejuice remastered? Like, do you really think they're still going to be trying to do that down the line, or are they going
Um,
to be like,
I
all
have
right,
one counter
because
argument.
uh
Um, I mean, this year alone, like we already mentioned, Planet of the Apes, Furiosa, like those are essentially right. And I can see Quiet Place. I see them like going back to that.
all right, that's it. That's your kind of argument. Three movies.
No, I'm just saying like we reviewed or like watched a bunch of movies that could potentially be rebooted. Like even like superhero stuff, how many Spider-Man have we had in like 20 years, you
Well,
know?
that's the
Like
thing. I like are is that what we're looking forward to? Like superhero
no,
movies?
no. Indiana Jones, you think they'll reboot him
I mean,
eventually?
again, that's still 80s.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to say, like whatever original thing, like Fall Guy, uh Free Guy, Ready Player
anything
One,
guy.
or Ready Player One. Yeah, like you mentioned, Chris. that the what was it called? Don't like what is it called?
What? Which one?
The one about the aliens? Be
E.T.
quiet, 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 quiet.
A Quiet
Quiet
Place.
A
Place.
Quiet Place. Like Interstellar. Things movies that were original for I guess a small period of time, but again, I don't like that's what we're having to work with really down the line. And I don't know if the
Um,
collective of the original movies that we've gotten within the last decade is going to have a good enough catalog to reboot them later on. You know what I mean?
Well, I
I
guess
mean,
when those movies came out, when Beetlejuice, when Top Gun, etc., when those came out, did you expect or did people expect a sequel? I don't know if they did.
I don't think they did, but
So I think
I
if
also
they
think in a
can
time where there
find a way.
was, but I also think because you had nowhere to the sources of your entertainment were so limited. Like if you wanted to see a movie, you mostly like if you wanted to see like what was perceived as a good movie, you had to go to the movie theater. Like someone, who's in an art film masters nowadays can make a really decent film with their iPhone. And if you're able to watch it, that's great. But like people had to go watch stuff in the movie theaters or get like straight to VHS, straight to POD, shout out. Straight to VHS type films, and very rarely did those straight to VHS films, do well. So, I know, I think the popularity from these things that came out, people weren't necessarily like, oh, am I expecting a sequel? No, but for the time, I think they were just, you know, that's all they had. And if there was anything to look forward to, um, I don't think it was necessarily a sequel, but I think it might have been something like a favorite actor or a favorite actress that they want to see in something else. Like I don't think anybody thought Top Gun was like, oh, we'll release a sequel anytime soon. Beetlejuice is the same. Like I'm surprised there's three Ninja Turtles, to tell you the truth. I didn't think, when the first one came out, I was like, that's okay, that's fine, that was good.
there's actually four of them.
Okay, there's four of them. They made four Ninja Turtles. I don't think anybody was asking. And a matter of fact,
Wait, there's
Oh
four
no,
movies live action?
I was making a joke.
oh
Oh,
man,
Uh,
I mean, tell me there's five live action movies. Turtles.
yeah. There's one,
like
two,
when
three,
Terminator came
four,
out, the
five.
first one was like, wow, we did well. We should do a second one. But the second
Hmm.
one was almost entirely like a full 180 of the first one. That by the time they were like, holy crap, we could really cash grab on a franchise. The third one the third one didn't come out to the 2000s.
Yeah.
And then by that time they were like, oh, they're retconning a lot of these different ideas. So I don't necessarily think that people were like ready for sequels or wanted sequels, but I think for the time they were just excited for what I again for the time are really good films. And this could be just us being like, you know, either we grew up with them or we saw them. I don't even think you all are like fans of Beetlejuice, but you know of Beetlejuice. Um, like if I were to show the original Beetlejuice to my niece who's a teenager, by the way, they went to go see it. She's like, I don't get it. I was like, yeah, because you wouldn't get it. Like, like you want to go see this movie because somewhere told you to like, go watch this film. But the mere fact that you never watched the original one, or even if I were to show you the original one, you would not understand some of the jokes, or maybe you think it's dry. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
when she turns our age, I don't know what the kind of entertainment's gonna look like, but what I'm trying to get at is like I don't think any of the movies that we are seeing now are gonna be worth the reboot, or if we're still gonna be in the 80s, or if there's gonna be other stories to tell. I don't know, man. I just do not know.
Don't worry, the AI will make
Yeah, right. The
reboot all
AI
the
will.
movies.
Avengers Secret Wars will eventually
You
be out
wouldn't
by then.
see so in 30 years, in the year 2044,
56,
would
54.
you see a John Wick reboot?
Yeah. whoever's being born right now, I would
That's
definitely
from the
say
2000s.
whoever's being born right now will eventually be the lead in John Wick. Yeah, I'd probably go see that because John Wick was a good movie during our time, an original movie, did very well. And it had four sequels, so they have that to work with. But the movies that we're talking about are just like are very, very numbered.
Or
Um,
would you watch an Alita Battle Angel in
well, they're supposed to
2039?
have a sequel to that, I hope.
I don't think it's
Yeah, I
gonna
think
happen.
James Cameron talked about it. So
James
maybe
Cameron
after
takes
Avatar,
decades. This guy takes 10 years at a time to make a movie, so fuck.
he still has like four avatars to go. So
Yeah. Okay. All
In
right.
2039, it'll be like Avatar 10. Avatar
Well,
goes to the
I
goes
guess
to the dentist.
I guess if they're able to do a good job on it, then yes, by all means continue to do it. But out of the ones that we seen recently, I mean, Mad Max did its job. Good, good job. You know, keep it going. Uh, the Alien for what it was, sure, it didn't completely throw out everything. The acting could have been better? Of course, but at least, some aspects of it made it bearable, which is fine. It's not like a complete waste, right? I would say, in my opinion, the holy grail of the sequels, or 80s continuations, reboots or sequels, Top Gun did very well, right? So if you're able to just, you know, find reputable actors and create scripts that work well, either for modern day age or just a continuation of whatever they're doing or whatever they do, then I mean, all for it. Because we have seen successes in them. So I don't want to, credit where credit is due. They've done well. Some of them have done very well. And it's not like I go out of my way to rewatch them, but I'm also, we didn't destroy them entirely, and they box offices numbers don't lie, right? So great, that's awesome. But for every one that we were like, yeah, we have four or five, sometimes even six movies that are like, holy crap, this was a holy shit, this piece of shit. Why is this getting funded type of deal? Um, and you know what? With that, we'll see how this review comes out because I think I think I think you all have some feelings regarding Beetlejuice. We'll find out. Uh, well, I guess with that we'll get into the synopsis. Charlie, you want to give us the synopsis for Beetlejuice so we can just get into this sequel and
Yeah.
see how it pars up with the rest that we took about 15 minutes to talk about.
Well, I know everyone has probably seen Beetlejuice 1, but after a family tragedy, three generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter, Astrid, accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. This was directed by the original director, Tim Burton, with Michael Keaton again as Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder as Lydia Dietz, and Jenna Ortega as her daughter, Astrid Dietz.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So, spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. Are we doing spoilers for the first one and spoiler-free thoughts for the second one, or are we just not spoiling anything yet?
I mean, the first one did come out 36 years ago, like
All
you
right, well,
said.
you're
So I
screwed
think
if
it's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, you're screwed if you didn't watch
I
the
feel
first
like
one.
it's past the spoiler.
It's past that. So
Yeah.
36 years ago when this movie came out, I thought that the ending of that movie implied that everybody was dead. Uh or
Hmm.
that at least Lydia was dead. But apparently she is not. So, the fact that there was a sequel is just like, okay, cool. I guess she has a daughter based on the trailers and stuff. But overall, I guess again, it wasn't something that I was necessarily expecting. This felt a lot cartoony. But it wasn't to the point where it was just blown out of proportion. I think for me it was just it felt corny for the sake of being corny, not corny in the sense of like the movie called for corniness in certain times or certain, interactions. I think the movie forced the corniness so that far down our throats. And I was like, well, at this point, it just seems like watching a TV show type of deal.
There's a
But
Beetlejuice show. Did you ever watch that one,
yeah,
Eddie?
I watched the Beetlejuice show. I watched the Beetlejuice show as a child, and that in itself was also very different because that dynamic was Beetlejuice and Lydia kind of
Hmm.
tag teaming the entire like situations of what's going on. Lydia was still in school. She was very much a teenager. And she was getting into antics with Beetlejuice. And, the whole premise was that, every week they were getting into something or whatever. And Beetlejuice was a weird, like, anti hero type of thing where he wasn't necessarily a demon or a bad guy, but he would either up the stakes or help Lydia get out of a predicament that she was in. So I
Yeah.
really do remember that TV show, but in this case, yeah, it just felt gimmicky, cartoony for the not even just for the sake of doing that, not as part of the movie. Um, and for me, it just relied way too much on that. Um, it wasn't really long, so I thought they could have used a little bit more time, but based on some of the scenes, I was like, man, you actually it felt like you ran out of material, so you needed some of these some of these scenes to elongate the movie for whatever reason. But that's just me. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I just want to say it's so weird, like the 80s. They're like, oh yeah, this horror movie or this character who's like a villain in this movie. Let's just make a cartoon out of him. Like I think Gremlins had a cartoon as well. Like just
Yeah.
Everyone
very
had a cartoon.
yeah.
It was that movie to cartoon pipeline that you needed.
It's like, do you know what the kids want? Beetlejuice as the main character or whatever. It's as for this movie, I kind of I agree with you, Eddie. Like a lot of like corny, also like very I know the first one had like kind of just like random stuff happening with like when the ghosts possess people. This one, just like there's too much going on, but like none of the subplots are really satisfying. Like it's in the trailer, like he has someone, this lady chasing him, Beetlejuice, and then like who is she? Like she's mysterious and stuff. Like that whole subplot, you could probably just taken it out. It wouldn't have done anything. Like it wouldn't have really changed the movie that much. Like there's a plot in this, which we get to in spoilers, which I think like that alone is just like that could have been an interesting thing for this movie, but instead it's like, oh, here's these other things that don't really work. And there's kind of like,
That's fun.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I know like a lot of this stuff was a lot of practical effects in this movie, like the sandworm or like the shrunken head guys and like the other things. So it's like it's cool to see like that they're going back to like more practical effects, especially for this film. I also don't really understand how the sandworm works. Like in the first movie, it eats Beetlejuice at the end, and then Beetlejuice is just fine. And it also eats someone in this movie, and it's like they're those come back and get you later. Like I don't understand the how does the sandworm work?
You're not supposed to know. It's not supposed to make sense.
I need lore on the sandworm.
It's the it's the afterlife. Leave it alone.
Yeah, that's all I got. What about you, Charlie?
Um, I I disagree with Eddie. It's like it's just corny to be corny. I think they match the first movie's vibe pretty. I mean, I was watching, I was like, oh, okay. At least they're matching the first movie, like the vibe and the practical effects and just kind of the silliness of it. If you watch the first one, like, yeah, it's a little like out, out there hoary, but it's also pretty corny itself too. Um, but and that's why I kind of landed like, all right, this movie was solid. It was solid just because of that, and probably because of the returning actors and how like well they do, especially Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. Um, and but I think with the same with you, Chris, it was a lot of times in the movie I'm like, well, where are we in this movie? Like, um, it was just like, what is the main storyline here? And why are there two storylines? And are they gonna sync up? Are they not gonna sync up? Um, does it matter? Do I have to worry about that lady? She just kind of walk around the hallways. Um, I mean, we get into it in spoilers, but there was, um, I mean, just based off the description I gave in this podcast, right? Astrid accidentally opens a portal to the afterlife. I feel like that's pretty interesting in itself. And then somehow it's it's that and not that and something else, right? So I think they could have tightened up the like the whole maybe the whole script, maybe the whole storyline. Maybe it's like two and like maybe they threw I don't know, it was one of those like maybe they threw two ideas out there and like, oh, let's run with both and merge it at the end or something. I don't know. Um, other than that, like it was pretty I was entertained, which was the point of which is the point of a movie, right? Um, it was cool. It was cool to see all the kind of things come back. Um, everything else, I guess, you have to wait for the spoilers.
All right. Anything else regarding the film or anything that you want to throw in there? Any fun facts before we get into spoiler-free section? All right. Well, with that, we will be heading into the spoiler section. We have been warned. Uh, so I guess going back, a couple of comments. Chris, you mentioned that there was some subplots that I guess just didn't need to be there or incorporated. And what were you referring to?
Mostly just his Beetlejuice's wife, ex-wife. Like the
Mm, mm-hmm.
whole like she's like, oh, she seemed to be like a presence that was like, oh, she's coming, and she's like sucking people's souls randomly in the movie. But it like I never really understood like her motivation or like did she want to kill Beetlejuice? Did she want to like be with him? And I don't know, I just felt like she didn't get enough screen time for me to care about her subplot. And like Charlie said, like just um going to the world like her Gina Ortega, like her subplot, her plot of going like being tricked by this boy to go to the afterlife, like opening a portal. Like that alone could just spin a movie. Like we didn't need the other stuff.
Yeah. And what happens at the
History.
end? She just gets eaten by the
Yeah.
sandworm. And that's it.
Her
That's how they
her
defeat.
and
Well, I mean,
Justin Theroux,
that's
he gets eaten.
yeah, I assume that was a
Yeah.
throwback to the first one where Beetlejuice got eaten, and
Yeah.
that's how it got taken care of.
Like she's still out there though, because Beetlejuice is still alive. So I don't know how that works. That's why
She's
I was
gonna come
like
back.
confused by it.
Yeah. I compared her to the bad guy from Men in Black 2, I think,
Hmm.
where it's like the lady with the vines and she's like back for revenge on one of the agents. And I thought it was gonna be like kind of like that, where like Beetlejuice is like, all right, I'm like a trickster and like a demon, but I'm not like I'm evil, but I'm not that evil. especially when his life is at stake, where she's like sucking people's souls out. And I could have ran with that. Like that could have been a whole adventure,
Hmm.
right? Finding her, fighting her, fighting her again, fighting her, like fighting her, and then finding her, and then like the cops are involved, et cetera, et cetera. There's more ghosts that are whose like souls or whatever being sucked out. Um, but that didn't. And at the end, but it was like there's no payoff because at the end it's like, all right, it's cool, sandworm, yay, save the day again or something.
Yeah.
And then the Astrid storyline, like I agree with you, Chris. I feel like that should have been the whole movie because that kind of like was rushed like halfway through the movie.
Yeah, then
Yeah, because they like she
after
gets
like he
saved and then
tricked
that's
him, and
it.
then it's like
Yeah,
he's like, I'm out, see ya.
yeah, yeah.
I just felt there was just too much stories going
Yeah.
on that they had to focus. They had to, there was so much side stories and regular stories. I mean, the main story that was going on, and then it was just convoluted with just so much other B stories. Um, that everybody needed to have screen time. But at some point, I just stopped caring about other people's stories. So you have Lydia's story, which is like she's going, she could see ghosts and dead people, but like Beetlejuice is getting into her face, which into her head, which is the main story. And then you have Beetlejuice's story, that's about his ex-wife. And they have to, he's trying to run away from her. She's trying to find him. Then you have Jenna Ortega's story where she falls in love with a random boy who turns out to be a motherfucking psychopath of a dead ghost. You have that storyline. Then you have Delia's line where I don't know what the hell is like they could have taken her out the entire time. Um, Lydia's mom does not give anything to the movie.
I mean, even
Sh
Willem Dafoe, like he gets a lot of screen
yeah,
time, and
Willem
like it's just like
Dafoe.
random, like him acting or not acting as a cop, like kind of thing. It's
uh,
weird.
it's just the whole thing, and then you have the manipulative husband to be and his
Yeah,
storyline of like what he's doing. There's just so much stories that are going on, and they don't do necessarily a good job. I thought there was like, all right, at some point they're all going to intertwine, right? But they don't really. If they did, I didn't really catch it. They don't really do a good job of putting them all together per se, and
no.
there's no real payoff other than the fact that those stories end. So, um, you know, it felt again for the time period for the time run that this movie has, and there are two musical numbers in this freaking movie that they could have done a little better job of sewing these stories together if that was the goal. Because there's just so much screen time and so much separate movies stuff that is going on that it just feels like I forgot that there was a whole other thing that was going on because at some point it felt like the focus was Jenny Ortega's character, and at another
Hmm.
point it felt like it was Winona Ryder's character, and at another point it just felt like it was Beetlejuice's character, and then there isn't really a whole there isn't a resolve that makes it feel like we paid off for getting invested in these storylines. Like, I understand Jenny Ortega is supposed to play a teenager, and I understand you meet a very cute boy, but within a matter of less than 12 hours, you're going over very late. Your mom's okay with this to just be in his home, and there's no like follow up or anything. It's just like, oh my God, my daughter is finally being like able to talk to me. I'm just going to say yes to everything she says because you're just so overwhelmed that she is speaking to you.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a movie. You gotta
And
Yeah.
take it.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But then it's like,
Whatever. It's a
but then it's
movie.
like, it's like,
Um,
okay, you're basically this kid is basically just doing what you will at any point. Like, oh, you can go see your dad. All you have to do is do this. Like she's just for a girl who was introduced to us to be like the outcast and like very like, you know, I'm smart, but
Skeptical.
yeah, or just whatever. She automatically just throws all that shit out the window and just is like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Or, now I believe and I'm a full believer and there's no like whatever rules exist now, and like you know what I mean. So it's just like over a boy, but not a boy, but her father. Like you know what I'm saying? Like her motivation is just wherever the story needs to go. Which side note on that, um, the book feels like Ex Machina here. The book for the recently deceased just feels like a get out of jail free card for a lot of these things. Where it's like in the beginning, it was used as a function to get to the afterlife, but now it's being used as a tool for like everybody's storyline. It's just like okay,
I mean, essentially wraps up both of the storylines with she summons a sandworm with the book, and then she reads the book about the claws, so her mom doesn't have to get married to Beetlejuice. So like
yeah, it's just
she
like
solves everything with the book
with just
that she
reading the
read
book.
some time like during that marriage scene. I don't know when she read it.
Yeah, the book obviously opened and fell onto the chapter of sandworms, and she was able to read all that. So that's another thing is that like in the first one, the Barb and whatever his name is, they're not dumb people. They're well-educated people. And Affleck's character or whoever he is, I can't forget his name, one of the Affleck brothers, like he's like this thing is so dense and it reads like a manuscript, right? And so like these are he reads a part of his like manifestation of man, like there's no rhyme or reason, but she was able to grab this and fairly quickly read and understand exactly what like they this book got an upgrade apparently that's just like here are the pictures and here how do you follow. Like it went from a book that was so technical and dense to read that was like Don Voyeski or something to like here's a picture book, follow these pictures and steps in a matter of seconds, by the way, um, to summon the sandworm and become a lawyer of the recently deceased. Like she lawyered very quickly, as if Beetlejuice wouldn't know that either. I don't know. I don't know. It just felt like it was everywhere. The musical numbers didn't do it for me. Um, granted the guy, I guess the dad did some fucked up shit, which is why they didn't have his face or his the
Yeah, I
actor.
was
So
gonna bring
they're
that up. So Jeffrey Jones, he did some, yeah, like really bad shit. So he obviously wasn't recast for his character to be killed off. So the way they killed him off in this movie was it was like an animated, like uh, stop motion almost, like of him in a plane, like as it's crashing, and then he
yeah, that
gets
was
eaten
pretty
by a
funny.
shark. So the rest of the movie is just him without a head. It's like his top half was pretty much eaten by a shark, and that's like him in the afterlife. So they don't have to like show that guy. So and that's a fun thing, I guess, for like a shitty situation. There are also like some fun like costume designs, like um Lydia's husband got eaten by piranhas in the Amazon or something. He was researching and like he like the fish on him in the afterlife, which I don't really understand how the afterlife works either. Like there's like the dune place where the sandworms are, and then there's the like essentially passing on. Like why didn't his dad or why didn't Lydia's husband, like why didn't he pass on? Like why is he working in the afterlife as like a ticket taker? Like, man, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, like there's
It's his punishment.
no because
That was
no
another
because
storyline where she
because
was
in the
where
first
Jenna
in the
like, oh, I want to see my dad. I want to see my
Yeah.
dad. And then it was just like, here's your dad. Oh, okay, let's sit down and have some coffee or something. That's just I don't know.
Maybe
but
that's why he didn't she couldn't see him because he didn't pass on. Like he was just chilling in the ticket booth, or whatever. So they couldn't see him in there. I don't know.
but that's another thing is that like in the first one they make it I don't know why they make it a point, but they make it a point of saying like those who commit suicide become uh basically just social workers or like
Mm.
caseworkers or like admin people in the afterlife, which was what the point of the of the introduction of like the afterworld in the original one was,
Hmm.
and they specifically say like those who commit suicide end up working, behind the thing. I was like, but he didn't commit suicide.
Suicide by Piranha.
Yeah, so like
Classic.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is he working admin when it was clearly indicated that one of the rules or one of the whatever is that people who commit suicide are the ones who end up internally working
Hmm.
shit gigs. That's why I didn't understand that either. I was like, I again, it felt just very convenient for the plot. Like, like because they even say it's all like, oh, welcome, blah blah blah. It's all like, oh, what did you do? It's like, well, your life is now exchanged for mine, which I don't know how that's even like in the afterworld even a thing. Like, who would willingly do that? It feels like you have to be tricked into doing this.
Hmm.
But sure, a book said it, you said the Latin words, whatever, and then the guy's like, that actually isn't official till you get a stamp, so walk over 10 feet. Like, why couldn't you just stamp it, bro? Like, I don't understand. You're in the same, is there
Different
like,
line. It's a
it's a
different
different
line.
line? Yeah, it's a
Oh,
different window, I guess.
yes.
And mind you, by the time he
Have you
walks
done
from that
anything
one
at like
at the
the
DMV,
DNB?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Get it
No, but mind
notarized by
you,
someone else.
all he has to do, like, she is getting walked away to the Soul Train. And like she walks over to Soul Train, there's shit you not at least a minute or two of them just dancing a whole number. And this guy hasn't walked 10 feet to the next window yet.
It's a
Like,
long
oh, he
line.
probably has. It's probably a long line.
no, no, no. It's literally just him walking to the next window. There's nobody, like, all the lines prior to him are other people trying to get stamp or whatever. He just has to walk to that final window where the dad was. That's all he has to do. That's it.
No, I'm pretty sure there was a long
I assume there's a line.
line.
It's
You're trying to
just
apply logic in a
in an
non
illogical movie. Yeah, I
in
guess. And
illogical
then
Yeah.
movie.
Beetlejuice is like, does Beetlejuice send them to like hell, or like is there an afterlife for the dead people? Like, he's just dead now, I guess. Or
This is the
exercise?
fire.
I don't
The
know.
fire
Fire.
portion of the afterlife.
Yeah, but he's also just like, this guy is weird. Um,
You'll find its way back. Um, Again, it could have been thought out. I think all your complaints are just the root of our complaints is just it could have been a more well thought out story. Especially the like everything like between um what could have done well was Lydia and Astrid have their strained relationship, right? Um and Astrid has the motivation to see your dad. Here comes a cute boy that takes her to the afterlife and tries to trick her to trade souls, right? And through that adventure, um, they could have extended that adventure. They probably could have needed Beetlejuice would have come back to help Lydia get her daughter, which does happen in the movie,
Hmm.
but it would have been more well thought out. And at the end, it would have been the payoff would have been Astrid actually seeing her dad, and
yeah,
then her dad, Lydia and Astrid, especially Lydia and Astrid, kind of healing their strained relationship, in
yeah,
which Astrid comes to accept the things that Lydia's going through and actually seeing dead people and like, oh shit, this shit's real, right? Um, and then her dad telling her not to like give her mom so much shit, and then having her dad tell her mom that like whatever, like you can move on from my death or whatever, whatever the case may be. In the end, the boy is the bad guy.
Both of
Beetlejuice
them.
is like the anti-hero, or both of them. F
I
it,
mean, what
right?
the new boyfriend, he was bad. He was just there for the money. And then the ghost boyfriend, he was a serial killer.
yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Both boyfriends.
Yes.
And then Beetlejuice could have been just throw him in there. And he could have, you could have given him like, yeah, I'll help you, but then he has like a subplot of like tricking them to do something else, you know. Um, not sure how much I like this whole like, I still want to marry you. and I have your teenage photo on my desk kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess he doesn't age, and
Yeah, he
she's,
doesn't age.
I don't
It's
know,
probably
Well, he's
but even
dead, so I
then,
assume, yeah.
which again, that's, I guess, also lends to like what the hell the wife wants. Does she want to be with him, or does she want to just take his soul? Why does she hold this
I think it was
vendetta?
like, yeah, it was like her sucking his soul, like because they got married, so like she had to,
yeah.
like it was her soul to suck, kind of thing.
There's
Like,
also something like she lives forever or something like that if she sucks his soul.
yeah,
Yeah, something like that. The movie I just explained, I would go see that movie. Let's remake this movie.
I mean, it is like what the movie you described is in this movie. There's just a bunch of other stuff that kind of bogs it down and lessens the impacts on like even her meeting her dad again. Like, I don't know, like,
That wasn't really, was it impactful for you? It was impactful for me.
no, it
That
didn't hit.
was supposed to be an emotional moment.
It was supposed to, but
Um, and it didn't work. It didn't
no.
work. Oh, what was the other thing? Also, I like how two things. One, I like how they like show that Lydia was seeing dead people, but they only showed one dead person. And then it was just like you just had to pretend that she's seen dead people all the time. Um,
I mean, she has her TV show, right? Where she seeds dead people.
yeah, but it's implied that it happens every day of her life, all the time.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Like,
Yeah,
we didn't really see more than like a couple or one or two kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Um, Number two, I knew that boy was a ghost. I knew it. I knew it.
What gave it away?
His
All his
introduction.
his old ass references in his Halloween costume was like John Dean. Oh, I forgot, like Dean something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of somewhat knew also when it was just like, these are my parents. Why don't you show their faces?
No, that's true. You did bump me. At that point, Eddie bumped me. He's like, they're dead. They're dead. And I was like, yeah, I know, Eddie. I know.
Stop yelling. We're in the movie, Eddie. Stop. Yeah, like they didn't
Um,
even, I don't even think they reacted to her going in the house. So yeah, it was definitely something was definitely off for sure.
I don't know why this. I understand that the first one had a musical number and it was like, but it was made to create uh panic and create, I guess, the feeling of the house being haunted,
Hmm.
which is why it was put in there. But these musical numbers in this one were just like, why are you adding a musical number? Just, the Soul Train one was like, okay, so are all these people getting on the Soul Train to die?
I
Or
like the Soul Train number.
no, because it was
I
just
thought it
like,
was clever.
oh, what are you doing? Getting on the Soul Train to the great beyond. But twice do they show this, and twice we see the same people. So are this is just a musical number, or are they getting into the train to go to the great beyond or whatever the hell it was called, like to die? And if you are, why are you excited about it? Why would you
Well,
be
you're already
mad?
dead if you're in
Well, apparently you're
wherever you
not,
are.
right? Apparently the rules of this world is like you're dead, but you're not dead. There are different levels of dead. So these people are willingly going onto a soul train to the great beyond where there is no coming back. You are dying, but they are happy about it. Like I just felt like they're like, oh, it'd be cool, a soul train where we have people like, but you explained it that it's like the final train home. So like, why is everybody happy? And why do the same people board and unboard if it is a one-way ticket? I mean, the conductor would have to be, why is the conductor alive? Shouldn't he be dead too? I don't know. And then the marriage one, the at the end of the movie also felt weird. I don't know how you all felt about it, but I was just like, why are they singing the whole song? They literally sang the whole song. Uh, if you know what it felt
Really
like,
upset about these
well, it felt like The Mask, where he was controlling everybody around him, and they were doing a musical number just to do a musical number. Like,
I mean, I think so that they were, right?
but in a at the end of the movie, you're just trying to get them whether they're gonna get married or not, and they need to get married. The fact that the breach happened is not even what's important right now. What's important is that they're singing for whatever reason this number to get married. The very fact that the world of the living is now straight open with the world of the dead isn't even cause for concern to the audience. What the
You know, I think
cause of
they said,
concern,
I think they said they close it up. One of the
yeah,
characters
but you
mentioned.
have like Beetlejuice's workers out there, and you have
Oh yeah, no one
Willem
brings
the
that up after that happens.
Oh,
and
that's
then
true. They just kind of
Willem
Yeah,
they're
Dafoe,
still out there.
Willem Dafoe's character's out there. The wife is out there. Like Jenny Ortega literally opened Saturn and had a sandworm go through, and then that gets just taken away. Right? There's just so that the for the audience member, there isn't like you literally throw away things from the movie just to get to the end, where again, the main point shouldn't be them doing a musical number. It should be them trying to resolve the issue at hand of Lydia. Is Lydia going to end up, marrying Beetlejuice? Yes or no? What's going to happen with the asshole motherfucker manipulator? And is Beetlejuice's wife going to come and be able to take? There's just so much stuff that should be the focus that they just completely take that away in a 5 minute musical number. And it's like, why? Why would you have the conclusion of the movie and then a musical number for whatever? Like
I
it
feel
doesn't
like
make any sense.
we were talking about with the reboots or Lego sequels, they're just doing it because the first movie had it, I feel. The first
Maybe
movie
you're right, Chris. Maybe you're
had two
right.
musicals.
Yeah, I
What'd you
mean,
say? Sorry.
I said no. I said maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just because the first one had it, we needed to put another one. I don't know. It didn't work in the movie. It just, and it felt so rushed at the end. Granted, the first one felt a little rushed at the end. I'm not gonna lie, but this one just is like, oh, we're all in the church. Cool. Let's all wrap up very nicely here. The sandworm's gonna kill everybody again. Beetlejuice gets out of a contract through a technicality that the daughter read very quickly.
Well, even Captain O'Hara, like the Delia, it's like she dies in this movie like midway through by snake poison, and then she's just there at the end in the wedding, and then she doesn't have to go back. She's just alive again, right? At the end of the movie, that's what happens, right? Or does she
No,
go
she runs
back?
off with her husband, her half-eaten husband on the Soul Train.
Do they?
Like, yeah, they go
Oh,
on the
okay,
Soul Train, which again
I guess I missed that.
implies a one-way ticket to the great. I just whatever, sure, sure. It's whatever. It's whatever. Is Jenny dead? No, Jenny's not dead. Jenny Ortega's not dead. She's still very much alive.
Yeah, because
Lydia
they
is
didn't
not
punch the
dead.
ticket,
Yeah, because they didn't punch the ticket because that's what it means to stay in the afterlife. Lydia can still see ghosts, but doesn't know how her power works. Beetlejuice is just alive, right?
Yeah.
He just
Well, he's dead.
explodes.
He's dead, but yeah, he's alive.
Is he
Well, I
dead?
mean, is anyone really dead
Doesn't
in
he
this?
explode to just like a big balloon and that's it?
No, I think they just send him back.
Yeah, I think it's this back to where
They
he
just say
is.
Beetlejuice, 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 and then send him back.
Well, he did explode, so
I
I mean,
this
he's
just
not dead. He's not dead.
He just
okay.
exploded back to
He-
the
I
afterlife.
mean, he's
Oh,
technically dead, but he's not dead.
he's technically dead, but he's
He's
not
not dead
dead.
dead. Okay.
Okay,
He's
cool,
not he's
that's
not
fine.
in the great beyond.
But the but the but the the stepfather's dead, right?
I mean, yeah, he's not.
He got
Yeah,
eaten by a sandworm,
yes, yeah.
The stepfather is, I imagine, now dead. Yes.
and Willem Dafoe's character is still a police officer that just gets coffee and doesn't drink it.
Well, he's dead. He's dead too.
So he's back. Now he's back in the afterlife.
No, yeah.
And
Yes.
Yeah, he went
the
back.
priest
He's a
is
cop.
just doing him. Okay, cool. Yeah. I guess this all wraps up very nicely and very quickly, I guess. Sure. It just it just felt I don't know where that ending was supposed to go, but it went somewhere. Um so also did she end up I thought I thought Jenna Ortega had the power now too. Because she ends up getting pregnant. This Bride of Chucky ending, I don't know what it's supposed to mean. Is it all a dream? Was it real? What is going on?
Oh, it's
Uh,
that was definitely a dream. Like Lydia woke up, or is it Beetlejuice, 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 the
yeah,
third, the trilogy?
I don't. That baby was fucking ugly. Holy shit, that shit gave me
We see it a
nightmares.
couple times in this movie. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not good.
that shit's disgusting, bro.
That shit's
I'm like,
wild.
man, that was the best. That was the best part of the movie. I was like, man, you made this shit disgustingly ugly, where I can't look away, but it's terrifying. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know what that cliffhanger. I don't even. I mean, was it considered a cliffhanger? I don't know what that was supposed to be about. Like,
No,
wake up
that was a dream.
and then wake up again. It's like, oh, is he there? Are you not there? What's going on? Was the
Yeah,
whole thing
those are
was this
dreams.
whole movie a dream? Was this whole effing movie just a dream?
Yeah, when Winona Ryder wakes up in a sweat after dreaming this whole movie.
And then you see a Stranger Things, like,
The intro it starts.
yeah.
I
You see the
mean,
Stranger Things
by the
creature in the
logic of
background.
everything going, that makes sense. The whole thing. I don't know. The ending, like the latter half of this movie, just started going downhill. At the beginning, it wasn't that bad. I was like, all right, cool. A teen angst. I mean, Lydia was also like that in the first one, but
Mhm.
she was like a teenage, like quiet introvert rebel. She was just like she would say witty things to her stepmother. She wasn't very active. She was just like being herself.
Plus, her
Like,
parents were pretty absent. Like her
yeah,
dad, it was like with his ducks or whatever in that room, and her mom
yeah.
was like with her art. So like she wasn't really they weren't paying attention to her.
But she was not. I would not. I would not have pegged Winona Ryder's character to grow up the way she did. Because again, at the end of the movie, it very much implies that she understands that there is a whole world of dead people. Matter of fact, she speaks to them. They are
Hmm.
now, part grandparents or whatever, just regular parents to her. So I don't know why she would be freaking out over seeing other ghosts. Like, did we all forget that she was just like about it? She spoke to dead ghosts for an entire movie.
No, I think it was more freaking out of seeing Beetlejuice again, not like
I
not a
guess
specific ghost.
not specific ghosts. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're right, Chris. That's probably what it was, but I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like, and then I didn't like the way they threw away those characters. It's not like, where are they? Oh, they found a loophole, so they're out of the house now. Okay, thanks for throwing away those characters very quickly. Um,
I guess they could say they passed on. Like
or they could
why
have just
didn't
give
I
a
didn't
little.
already understand
Yeah,
like the roles make no sense in this in these
no, the rules don't
movies,
make
you
no
know?
sense, but just give a little bit more. I don't know, homage. Just like, oh, they found a loophole. Okay, well, it's
And
literally a line in the movie.
they're beyond. Then the
Like
great beyond.
yeah, they really established that like there's a train, the soul train You could have literally just said
They
they
decided to
went on
swap
the
Yeah,
it.
troll train.
they took the Soul Train to the Great Beyond. That
They
would
were
have been
done
okay.
hanging out with you, you
Yeah.
know.
They don't want
Would
to,
have tied it in. We're like, oh, okay, there's a Soul Train. This is gonna be
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And later on, I'm like, remember the Soul Train we told you about? Yep.
that's the loophole they found. That's one way ticket, not coming back.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
those that stops it had was like the Great Beyond, the Pearly Gates, and something else. So
I
Heaven
think
was a stop on that Soul Train. So I don't know why you would go to the Great Beyond instead of Heaven, but sure. Whatever you believe in, man.
Better drinks, maybe. I don't know.
anything else? Anything else we miss?
Um, the ending did very much confuse me. I think it might have been a throwaway, like let's set up the third one, or like, what about the third one? It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll write in something. Here you go. Here's it. Here's that ugly baby again. And then it's just like, oh, it's a dream. It's a dream within a dream, but not really.
It's like, oh,
Beetlejuice
actually,
3.
yeah, it's like, oh, she wakes up from that dream and then like Beetlejuice is laying next to her, and then she wakes up again and she's alone. Like, that's kind of depressing. Like, she has no one now. Her husband's dead, and the guy her boyfriend was a dick and he got eaten by a sandworm. So she's alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, right?
Yeah. I wish she would have learned something in this movie. It seemed like it was just like her teenage character, but she's just older now instead of like an
Hmm.
adult version of like who she was. Like I think her hairstyle didn't even change. She was like, this is like, she just decided who she was at 16, was like, all right, not even gonna change my hairstyle or the way I dress. This is it.
See,
And it would have,
I thought
yeah,
it
and it
was
would have
like
made
just
more
for the show,
sense.
but
Yeah,
like no, she just wears that all the time.
yeah. Instead of Jenna being like about with their mom, she would have been if she was like a scientific, like just a scientist majoring in science, whatever science. Um, I think that would have hit harder too, but whatever.
Like her trying to like disprove stuff
Yeah.
and not like falling for the trick immediately. Yeah, I
But
think
that's all I
that's it.
got. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we're gonna get into our ratings and whether or not you would recommend going to see in this theater and thoughts on Beetlejuice. To wrap it up very nicely, or you know, what have you. Charlie, we're gonna start with you.
I'm gonna give this. I enjoyed it more than I didn't enjoy it. So I'm gonna lean it towards like a 3.5 ugly babies out of 5. Um, I think everyone should go watch it in theaters, and I think it's. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. If you're a super fan of like the first one, go see it. If you're just a casual fan of the first one, go see it. If you're not a fan of the first one, you know, do what you will. Um, and in terms of like Beetlejuice the third or like Beetlejuice, um, I feel okay. I feel like there's another one coming. Do we need it? Maybe not, probably not, especially how after this one kind of like landed. And I just don't know what the hell is gonna like what would happen. Um, what would happen if um in that movie? Like I just what would be the plot line? They go back to the afterlife, then he Beetlejuice again. He comes to the real world. Jenna Ortega is 40 something years old with a teenage daughter. Like where are we going with this? And I feel like if they want to get a third one out there, it's gonna have to be within the next 10 years because I don't think anyone's gonna care in 36 years. Maybe they will. Maybe they
Well, I
will.
mean, like we said, Michael Keaton's already 70, right? So I don't know
Yeah.
how.
So they're gonna have to turn that shit around pretty quickly. Hopefully they have an idea. They probably do. Based on like the ending of the second one. What I would have what would have been a good setup or what I would have liked to seen is that like, oh my God, Liddy's actually gonna marry Beetlejuice, right? Like it's actually gonna finally happen. So then it finally happens. Lydia either gets sent to the afterlife with Beetlejuice or Beetlejuice comes into the real world and then boom, there's your third movie. Third movie is just trying to get Beetlejuice or Lydia and Beetlejuice divorced so that he goes back to the whatever hell or whatever the hell he's hanging out. Um, I think that would have been fine, right? Because it'd been like, oh my God, the thing he wanted actually happened. Now we have to like now Jenna Ortega has to take up the mantle of like seeing dead people or whatever, right? And handling that business. Um, and that would have been that'd be a perfect, not a perfect sequel, but it would have been a sequel. Um, yeah, I don't know. What about you, Eddie?
I guess I also fall in the middle on this. I guess I would just yeah kind of agree with you where I enjoyed the movie more than I didn't enjoy the movie. But I think just because uh the actors in the movie, I mean, like I mentioned in the beginning, Michael Keaton doesn't seem like he missed a beat. Like I have not put this man's age. He's high energetic. He plays the character. It's like he's just picking up where he left off. Uh, Surprised. I'm not very a big fan of Jenny Ortega, but she does well in this movie. She plays her very stoic character that she's come to be, but she puts emotion where there needs to be emotion, so that's fine. That was very well. Even the father, for the very very small time that he's in there, do I believe that oh, this payoff is like, oh, the family is together? No, but the father plays a very crucial role. Like you could see the sincerity that he's playing to his daughter and to his ex-wife. So like the acting in this is is pretty on point. Just considering the writing and what needs to be done. So I mean, Monica Bellucci says like 10 words in this entire movie. I'm pretty sure she got paid handsomely. So the acting does a good job. The little callbacks, the little tidbits I like that, their neighbor in their first one who was trying to sell their house now has a grown-up daughter with her own daughter that is also a real estate agent who is still trying to sell the house. So that's pretty funny. Little things like that, little callback like that are really good. But just over the overall the things that we went over, just what could have been, or even within the same movie, things could have been changed. Isn't enough. I'm more on the side of like that was nice as opposed to like this is crap. So I would give this a good solid three demon babies out of five. Um, Definitely go watch it in theaters if you can. I wasn't able to watch Beetlejuice in the movie theaters when it first came out, but I did watch it numerous times in VHS. Um, it was one of those weird movies. Tim Burton does a really good job of getting these type of weird movies for millions of people to enjoy. So go see it. Definitely go see it in the movie theaters. It is an experience to go watch, but just brace yourself on what to expect. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I would give this three shrunken heads out of five. And yeah, like this, it had fun things. It was also like a lot of random stuff for better or worse that doesn't really work that we talked about. Like, I don't know, like the whole his, Beetlejuice's wife subplot and the the both of the boyfriends. I don't know, I feel like there was a little too much they were trying to go for. And well, like there's some fun stuff with like the strung ahead, like Beetlejuice's like workers. Like he's like a scare or exorcist. Like I don't really know like what his business is, but like he's working there and like trying to get Lydia back after all these time. But like yeah, like gives a show which is just that. I don't know. Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um yeah, so I saw a quote from Tim Burton. He says about doing a sequel. He says, "Let's do the math. It took 35 years to do this one, so I'll be over 100. But I guess it's possible with advancements in science these days, but I don't think so." So actually, that's kind of sounds like no, but I don't know.
And he
This
said maybe they'll
movie
get somebody
is
else
doing,
to wrap it up.
yeah. I mean, this movie is doing fairly well. It made 100 million. Sorry, it made 162 million with a 100 million budget. So like it's already doing fairly well its opening weekend. So if if the studio isn't already planning a sequel, I would be surprised. And I don't know, I guess if you're a big Beetlejuice fan, go see it in theaters. But if not, you can just wait to see it. I know when I went to see it in Adobe, there's a bunch of people, like different groups of people that were just like dressed up in Beetlejuice shirts and like they had like the striped pants and stuff.
Oh, really?
Like people, yeah, surprisingly in my screening, like they really like this series apparently. Like it's Beetlejuice is a big thing for some people, just
Okay.
not for
All
me. At
right.
least this one.
I did
Just
not see any of that.
Yeah, miss out. Where's your pants?
I should have bought some pants.
yeah, Beetlejuice pants is the thing. I'll tell you that much right now. It was all around the 90s. It was weird. Um, but anyway. All right. So are there any scenarios, info that we missed? Feel free to let us know. Because you could like you Google it while I'm trying to read this.
Charlie, come on.
My bad. My bad.
Any scenarios we didn't cover, email us at straight2pld@gmail.com. You can follow us at straight to PLD on X, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, and Twitch. And that concludes this episode of Straight to PLD.
I'm Charlie.
I'm Chris.
And now I'm Eddie. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.